have access to sanitary facilities, so on and so forth. So these were the outcomes that we felt that were the most important. Then the next, and they felt climate action, access to education, access to opportunity. This was the kind of things they felt people needed the most: access to proper education, access to opportunities, opportunities, including employment opportunities, and access to safe water and sanitation. Then climate crisis and destruction of natural resources was something people felt was also of an immediate concern, because as you've seen and you've read, both climate change and environmental crisis are having an immediate impact on us. I mean, basically, you can see it in terms of the pandemic, you can see it in terms of the floods, you can see it in terms of heat waves, cold waves, forest fires in California, locust attack. I mean, all this is related to climate change. All this is climate change, and unless we take the opportunity, build on the opportunity, and act on it, we will be impacted with far worse and far more, I mean, far bigger impacts of climate change. We've seen, I mean, it did become a joke on social media for some time that 2020 is a jinxed year. I mean, it started with the pandemic and then the cyclone and then this and then that. But that's the fact. I mean, that's what's been happening. I mean, right from the beginning. I mean, throughout the year, there is a calamity which is a result of climate change, which is happening in different parts of the world. If you've seen the the forest fires that have taken place in California are devastating. I mean, things we never thought about. I mean, who would have imagined houses in the United States of America being burnt by forest fires? I mean, that used to be limited to just Terminator movies. But I mean, yes, it's happening, and people, I mean, you do. I mean, it's not just the fire services that can burn it out. It's become a regular phenomenon. It's having an impact on the air quality. Your locally, the Punjab. I am presuming actually that a lot of you are from Delhi. So farm fires have already started in Punjab and Haryana, and it's going to have an impact on Delhi very soon. I mean, during the pandemic, we saw the air was cleaner. We didn't have to switch on our air purifiers. We could, I mean, of course, we weren't allowed after some point of time. We could also run outside. We could exercise. We could do things that we weren't able to do earlier. But I mean, gradually you'll see this air quality will go back to being poor and then hazardous and then other levels, because the farm fires have started, people are out on the roads, the economies are opening up, and hence it's going to go back to normal. And that's what we've been saying: build back better, build back greener, so that you don't go back. I mean, things that were there before the pandemic happened, we don't want to go back to those normal. I mean, we don't want to make that the normal again. What we do want to do is, what we really need is cleaner air, so that our children can breathe better, they don't have breathing issues and lung issues, lung infections at like when they're like 6 7 year olds. We don't want asthma attacks in young children. We don't want various other health impacts on the young kids. So basically we're saying build back greener, and that has also come out in the survey that people have taken. So largely there is a unity in terms of what people have responded to, which also gives us an insight into that these are critical issues that have been impacting. These are critical issues that people across different populations, different countries, different kinds of people are thinking the same. which basically means that, I mean, if let's say if there were to be disparate responses to the survey, we would see, okay, people have different priorities. But no, for everyone, climate change and environmental degradation has become a priority and has become an issue. And it is impacting everyone. So that's what we feel is something that we need to take immediate action on. Again, then and the best part about it was that people felt that it's global cooperation and uh, global cooperation and multilateralism that could resolve these issues, because ultimately issues are now or impacts are now not just limited to a location. I mean, anything that's global can impact locally, and phenomena that is local can have impact globally. So, global cooperation, people felt, was the most required, uh, and they felt UN is the body that can bring about change. Uh, there has been a lot of uh, debate, a lot of discussion, a lot of opinions about how the UN isn't relevant anymore, about how the UN doesn't fit the bill anymore, or the UN is not the agency that can bring about the change. And there's been a lot of, as the SG says, nationalism that is um impacting global cooperation, without which you can't have solutions to, let's say, something like a COVID-19. You can't have a solution. I mean, India alone itself won't have the solution to COVID-19. We cannot bring about solution to COVID-19, because if you are vaccinated and your neighbors aren't, or if you of your neighbors are vaccinated and you aren't, the pandemic is not going to go away. So, I mean, so global cooperation is essential. However much we want priority given to us and priority given to our country, I mean, it's not going to help in case of climate action, unless emissions, unless India and China, growing economies, in taking action, start making the change now, we're not going to have any real impact on climate change in the near future. So, I mean, these people have, I mean, the good part is people have come out with these responses. People have pointed out that this is required, uh, which is actually, and a large number of people have come in, not just like smaller amount, but more than, I believe about 90% people say that global cooperation is required, multilateralism is required, despite what a lot of governments feel. I mean, for instance, the United States of America has pulled out of WHO, has pulled out of the Paris Agreement. But if but the thing is, US being the largest, one of the largest emitters, or maybe, yeah, the largest emitter, if they do not come into the fold of these agreements, if they do not recognize the issue and they do not work on the issue, I mean, however much the entire world puts a lid on the emissions and brings about and does manage to stabilize the temperatures, the impact will still be there, because there is one large emitter that refuses to recognize the issue. So basically, I mean, the idea of the survey was to get people to talk about it, people to respond to the various local and global issues, and we've got responses. Like I said, the survey is still open, and if you feel you want to voice your opinion there, please do so. Every single opinion is counted for, is important. Uh, I would like to actually close here and listen to you guys more about what is your views on different issues that are happening around you. What is it? I mean, what is it that goes through your minds? What is it that you feel about different issues?
Okay, so I'll be recognizing people. Those who wish to speak in the plenary session, please raise your hands virtually on Zoom. Anyone who wishes to speak. UNHRC Switzerland, you can go first.
So good morning, ma'am.
Hi.
So I'm the delegate of Switzerland from UNHRC, and according to me, like as like this is a world with un- different points of uncertainty. UN is doing a great job by just improvising itself.
Sorry, was that a question? I mean, are you?
I guess the delegate has
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
internet issues. Uh, UNHRC Bulgaria, you can go next.
All right. Thanks, Secretary. Um, Good morning to you, ma'am. So my name is Rishabh, and I'm the delegate of Bulgaria in the UNHRC committee. So, as you talked about this clean water scenario, there's a fantastic example that hit my mind, instantaneously. If you would have heard, of course, you would have heard of Mr. Bill Gates, right? So he's running this foundation called Bill and Melinda, her wife Gates Foundation. So they human feces and boil it, sort of they sort of steam it, and they're making clean water out of it. And I truly believe that it's a fantastic technique to go for. So it's preventing unnecessary employment of water. Sorry, not water, electricity. There's he's actually preventing the unnecessary employment of electricity now. And I truly believe that if India could adopt these sort of, not only India, if other nations could also adopt this sort of an activity, or technique, it would be really effective and efficient, of course. And I truly, talking about the pandemic, if the nations are working in a synergized manner, I truly believe that this pandemic would come to an end, by late 2021. And I think that this lacking. I go to the market every day. I see people not wearing masks. They started taking this as a normal day-to-day life scenario that comes in and goes. So they're actually thinking it like this. So, and I think that it's not a good thing to go for right now, because if the people are not realizing it right now, it's going to be really tough to compromise this thing and adapt ourselves with these kind of situations if this pandemic sort of things comes and hits in like 5 years down the line. So this is a great time to become adept with this thing and adapt ourselves to these sort of situations. So this is actually the time to train ourselves. If any sort of pandemic comes and hits in 10 years down the line, you'll be ready. You'll be what to do. So that's all I want to say.
If I may just add to it, sorry, take a minute. I agree. All new technologies, I mean, technology, of course, is something that we should definitely use and we should definitely depend for getting us the basic that we need. Definitely, I mean, that's absolutely, and whatever the Bill and Melinda Gates doing is definitely great work, no doubt about it. Just that I feel, I mean, it's always a better thing to prevent pollution than to start treating it later. I mean, it's always good to have your natural resources cleaner, your better managed, less polluted, than to pollute them first and then invest and spend on technology, on resources, on manpower to clean it later. That's what. And then, of course, but I do agree. Technology is something we should definitely use and kind of use it effectively to get through. I mean, to basically reach. I mean, get through all these issues that we are. I mean, the current issues that we are having.
Uh, Moving on to the next speaker, UNSC South Africa.
Hello, ma'am. I am Sheikh. I'm a delegate for South Africa UNSC. Ma'am, why is it that even though there is a conflict going on in Armenia and between Armenia and Azerbaijan, there has been little to almost no talks about it, and not even a response by India or any other country regarding the conflict?
Um, to that I'll say, see, I've said this in this thing. I mean, like I said in a few minutes ago, we are increasingly becoming, and the SG also said it in one of his speeches, that we're increasingly becoming more nationalistic and more nation centric than global centric, or so while, because, and a lot of, for instance, for India right now, see, of course, the pandemic every country is grappling with, every country facing tough situations with, and India is amongst them. We are soon going to be the highest number of cases in the world. We don't have a solution. Our health infrastructure is running out of capacity. Doctors and nurses are tired, are completely overwhelmed, the whole health infrastructure. And we're only increasing right now. We're not even plateaued. We're still increasing. So go by other countries' experience. We'll test, and then we'll maybe come down. The cases will come down, and then there'll be possibly a second wave, third wave. We don't know. We don't know nothing about this virus. So of course, one reason why a lot of countries aren't talking about crises that are happening in other countries. One is that. The other, I feel, could possibly be that right now that crisis doesn't impact the street particularly, and so that's one reason why countries already kind of grappling with their own issues are not really responding to these crises. But yes, at a global level, for instance, the UN, the Security Council is keeping an eye on it, and I believe India will, of course, have a larger say and and a bigger opinion once they officially start their Security Council membership, which is starting in January for the next 2 years. They've got we've got a temporary membership from 2021 to 2023. So I believe India will, of course, have a larger say and have a bigger opinion when they officially join the UNSC in January.
Right. Moving on to the next speaker, UNHRC Burkina Faso.
Greetings, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Huh. Ma'am, I'd like to add on to your point regarding nationalism. What I believe is that there needs to be a delicate balance between nationalism and internationalism, seeing the present scenario in the world and the ground reality, because no country wants to be completely international and completely impartial, right? So, and what I believe is that there needs to be delicate balance, and that nationalism, if utilized properly, can be a positive force, because a major part of that nationalism is also about how the rest of the world perceives that country. So, nationalism can indeed be a positive factor in increasing the status of living of this country. That will be all from my side. Thank you.
Moving on to the next speaker, Midnight Crisis, Homeland.
Uh,
Please unmute.
Hello, ma'am. I would like to add on the pandemic situation right now, because I feel like even if the vaccine is released, it will take a substantial amount of time to reach countries like India, and until then, I do think it is a global effort to try and contain the pandemic as much as possible. And for that, we do need a little more stricter rules to not spread this virus, or to just try and help out as much as possible until the vaccine um, is for is for sure released and does reach India. And I think until then, it is a global effort, not only in India but even in other countries, to try and sustain the virus. And it is not a certainty that the vaccine will work as well. There may be some issues with it. So, in regards to that, that's all.
Good
Okay,
point. I agree.
moving forward to the next speaker, Midnight Rest Committee, DNI.
Uh, Hello, I am the Director of National Intelligence for the Midnight Crisis Committee, and uh, I frankly feel that during this time of pandemic, all countries are playing it out differently for themselves, and there's a huge lack of unity between the countries present in the world right now. Everyone is trying to be the fastest. Everyone is trying to overcome the other, get a solution faster, put it out in the market. And I don't feel that it's, at least in India, at least in Pune where I stay, it's been taken seriously, because you'll see people on the streets without mask. There's a BJP office in front of my house, and they're always roaming around without mask, with flags, doing this and that. And I really feel that we are undermining what the seriousness of this pandemic is. And there's a huge lack of unity, is what I feel. Everyone is trying to be faster, ahead of each other. And there's a old African proverb. It states that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And I don't think the way that the world and all countries are playing it out today, we're going to go very far with this, because there's simply a lack of unity. That's the basis of it. Like, no one is trying to help each other out. Everyone is trying to play for themselves. And when it comes to progress of India, I have, traveled to various places for conferences, etc., etc. And we are referred over there as the dumping ground of all technology. I mean, if US comes out with a new phone, they'll first put it in India. I mean, if it plays out here, it plays out everywhere. That's the way we're treated. And if we actually want to, rise the ranks and whatever that our government is saying, like, by this date will be so great, the 1.3 billion of our population needs to be put into human resource, and not just, like, we have this much working is what that matters. Because until that 1.3 billion is actually working, it's just slack. And yeah, that's basically it.
I absolutely
Okay,
agree with this. So in the end, for people to turn into human into
is ma'am here?
I am sorry, I got that.
Okay. Oh,
So like I was
no
saying,
problem, ma'am.
yeah.
Okay. So the next question by the Vice President of the Human Rights Council.
Okay, hi ma'am. A very short and crisp question. Why do you think that after so many years of struggle, we are still not able to, end up the whole Israel and Palestine conflict?
That's a difficult question. So this
I guess ma'am has some internet connectivity issues. She'll be joining us in a minute. Okay, so ma'am is back again and she'll address the question raised by the Vice President of UNHRC.
Hi, sorry, I got disconnected. So yeah, I think we'll continue. So what was the question again? I'm putting my video off because it's I think the internet so it'll be weak here.
Yeah, ma'am. I was asking that keeping in mind
Right,
that
the Israel conflict. Right, sorry.
yes,
So
ma'am.
yeah, basically, like I said, there's a lot of politics involved, and that's what I was talking about. There's a lot of nationalism um, that's kind of come about, and people and not global cooperation. So it's basically nationalism on either side. Of course, people also need to cater to their own political constituencies, um, and people's well-being, people's demands is not really. I mean, and in these cases, people's demands, people's well-being is not what is top priority. So you need to bring people. That's what the UN has been doing for many years now, trying to do for many years now, trying to get both the parties onto the discussion table, bring about a peace, bring about some kind of peace agreement, so that at least people living in the Gaza Strip, people living in Palestine, people living in border areas of Israel, or even Israel for that matter, at least have peace and no conflict, so that they can then begin to think about education and water and sanitation and electricity and opportunities and employment, industry growth, etc. Because without without in conflict, I mean, conflict of course means all of this takes a backseat, complete backseat. So I mean, yeah, so basically people need to come to the discussion table, and people need to realize and understand that while yes, territory could be important for is important for your local politics, for your constituencies, but ultimately ultimately safety, human development is far more important, because if you look at it, uh, um, I mean, if you, yeah, in fact, I'll bring this to you. I watched, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was, I think it was based on a real story where a plane is hijacked. I can't recall the name. It was a good movie, and where there was actually Yitzhak Rabin, and so it was Yitzhak Rabin and the then Israel Prime Minister, and how they tackled the situation. And they basically just the defense minister and the PM said, well, if we continue to fight, the conflict will always, we will continue to fight. This will never stop if we don't think about peace. If we don't, so they were actually, I mean, they said this needs to stop somewhere. So I mean, it was a movie. It was based on a true story where a plane was hijacked and Israeli occupants of the plane were segregated, and it was hijacked in Africa and taken to Africa, and the Israeli, I mean, they were threatened they'll be killed. They were ultimately released. I mean, like through an operation and all that. I mean, that's the film, but that's what the character who played the PM and the character who played Yitzhak Rabin said that, well, we continue to fight if we fight, if we continue to fight, this will not end. So like I said, people need to come to the discussion table and talk to each other about it. I mean, that's the only way this can happen. There's no other way. And there
Okay.
have been instances before, like you see the where people have, I mean, Germany is one big instance. Of course, it wasn't and there was some kind of some peace talks within the Koreas. There was so I mean, things do happen. It's not that it's it's impossible. It's just people need to talk to each other.
Ma'am, thank you for the answer. I just have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, what according to you is the Israel-Palestine conflict? Is it the domestic issue of these two countries, or is it actually an international issue?
Honestly, see, I'm not very sure of the UN position on it. The UN position is has always been what I just said, that come to the talking table, come to the discussion table, and that you need to end the conflict, and then you need to have a peace setup over there, peace treaty, peace setup, peace agreement over there. The UN has always said that both the parties need to that I mean, while I mean, both the parties need to just stop fighting with each other and let people have access to basic amenities and have and think about the populations living in the conflict affected areas. So the UN position says that. Now, of course, like I said, I mean, I only reiterate what it is, and I mean that's what I feel. The issue is that there's too much of nationalism. People and countries, and because of their internal politics, they're unable to take decisions that can have far-reaching impacts, or that can end those conflicts. Um, so I mean, yes, of course, I mean, I feel it's, of course, it's internal politics. International issues, see, countries, the UN, like I said, global cooperation can bring about changes, can reduce conflicts, can bring about peace, only if the member states are willing to do that. If only if the member states are willing to cooperate, willing to come to the table, only if they're willing to talk. So, but if the member states are not willing to talk, we can only I mean, other countries, the UN, other member states can only bit by bit counsel them, make statements, issue reports, have meetings, have discussions around it, but member states have to cooperate. So that's what I feel the issue is.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, I believe there's a question on the chat. If you want, I can read that out.
Yes,
Uh,
the truth, I have
yeah.
access.
Do you think that the issue of Kashmir involves a question of self-determination, which is fundamental in terms of the international law?
Hmm. Uh, I mean, see, honestly, again, the UN position on it. So I'll give you what is the UN position. So there is the United Nations Military Observer Group for India and Pakistan, and MOGIP, which has no active role right now, but does keep an eye on the situation around the border. Now, the Pakistan government, of course, recognizes it, and they are based out of they are actually based out of Pakistan, but the Indian government feels that there is no role for it, because the Indian government feels that Kashmir is part of a part of India, and hence Pakistan or any third party has no role in. Now, this is what the official positions are. While personally, people may feel differently. You may have a different opinion. I will have a different opinion. Um, uh, but honestly, at the end of it, what is who are being impacted? It's the people. I'm not saying why they're being impacted, or what's the impact. I'm saying what's happening is the impact on the people over there, impact on the state, impact on the people, on the economy, on the growth, on the development. Like I said, wherever, I mean, all these conflict areas, if you see, ultimately, whatever positions um the governments may have, member states may have, or the UN may have, it's ultimately an impact on the people that makes these conflicts worrisome, and that is what the case here. Um so I feel if we put people at the center of the discussion and the center of the issues, it will be far easier to resolve conflicts, and it will be far easier to find solutions. And that's what, unfortunately, governments across the world don't do. uh, People are not people, and their welfare is not in their is not a part of these discussions. I mean, that's not what they think is the actual welfare. I'm saying, I'm not talking about superfluous. And this is not just for Kashmir, or in this case, this is across the world. Why do you think Syria is going on for the last decade, more than a decade? Because people are not at the center of the discussion. It's the various politics of the various parties that's at the center of this thing. So that's what I feel the issue is.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The next question from UNHRC Switzerland.
Good morning, ma'am. Sorry, I got disconnected due to some reasons.
Yeah.
So, what I was asking that, like, this is the world of uncertainty, and we can't feel or go through various issues. What the other parts of the what the other world is going through. There are some certain issues which we are pointing out for so long, but as we know that we just have few years to reverse the climate change. In spite of just having a discussion, why we aren't just start working to change it, right? Because according to me, if there is no environment, there is no resources, and therefore there is no population. So the balance between all of them is needed. What are your views on this?
Yeah, you're right. Of course, the balance is needed. Like I said, if we don't put people at the center of our decisions, or the well-being of the people, because this essentially all climate crises, the climate crisis, in fact, all other crises impacts the most underprivileged people. So, I mean, people like me, for instance, we have the privilege of sitting. I mean, I don't have yearly flooding in my home. I don't have to pick up my belongings and run off to some camp somewhere because the forests around my house have kind of burned up everything, or there is no water. There is absolutely no water supply because of drought, or that there is no food in the region because of famine. So I mean, it doesn't impact it is of course having an impact on me, because now I'm paying far higher prices for the food that I eat. I am paying far more. I'm and also contributing to climate change in some ways, because I mean, it's hotter. While I was probably not using an AC 10 years ago, I now have to use an AC. You can't do without an air conditioner, and hence I am also contributing to that in a way. And it will ultimately come to impact me as well, because if I am not directly impacted by something like a flood or a forest fire, but diseases, for instance, a pandemic, I am impacted by the pandemic. This is nothing but climate change. This is nothing but locusts, swarms of locusts impacting food supply will ultimately impact the cities also, when there is lack of food grains, when there is short supply of food grains. So people may be impacted differently, but it's the poorest that get the most impacted. And when we don't have those people in the center of conversations, in the center of decisions, is when the right decisions and the right action doesn't take place. So countries, like the for instance, this is a very local thing that I spoke about. If you look at internationally, globally, islands are probably going to be underwater for some year, for in some years down the line, and these people are fighting. The small island nations are fighting for it, and every year, every climate meet, they sorry, they say the same thing, that our existence is going to be wiped out because you guys can't control the number of cars you're coming out with. You guys can't control the number of the number of ACs you're installing, the number of industries you're running. So our existence will be wiped out. There will be climate refugees very soon. I mean, our entire population will become a climate refugee. But but for them, small island nations are not like empowered enough to be at the center of the decision. So the decisions are always taken by um, the most empowered nations. So like in this case, like in the case of climate action, India is doing some amount of climate action, but it is still lacking in terms of a whole lot of things that we can do in the way our cities are growing and literally going beyond their limits, literally falling over the seams. There is an issue in the way we are kind of handling our water. I mean, we're doing our water management. So all these are issues, and which need to have people in their mind. If you don't have people in your mind, if your decisions are not people centric, like I said, you will not have the desired impact.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Like, I'm glad that you are contributing your part.
Sorry,
I'm
I
glad
didn't
that
quite get that.
I'm glad that you are contributing your part for this.
Okay, moving on to the
There's
next speaker. Anyone would like to ask a question?
there's a question in the chat, or I can take that if there's no one else right now.
Okay. Sir is the scribe of the stakeholders. Satvik sir, you can move forward with the question.
Hello, good morning, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yep.
All right. So, ma'am, when we talk about a policy making, the crucial part of that is the policy implementation. And when we're talking about the policy implementation in the COVID period in India, so uh, we've seen INC protesting against the national exams because the reason they're stating that is the students might just they might just get positive from coronavirus. So, and on the same side, there have been markets open for the normal people, the normal citizens of each and every city, and people have just started to their normal lives again. And uh, whenever we read the news about like how many patients are there, so we read such news where cities and the district authorities have been hiding the number of cases that are prevalent in the in the current times. And then I've heard many cases where like people just got tested positive for COVID, and after one day they got the test again, and then they got negative from some other center. So for a country like India, where which is such diverse on such a large scale, do you feel that policy implementation is a bigger issue? That's why we lacking in the management issue. Ma'am, you're not audible. Hello. Hello.
I guess ma'am is having some internet issues.
Yeah.
Like, we'll fix it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, some internet connection issues. Like I was saying, yes, of course, this is so I mean, I feel something as big as the coronavirus pandemic. Um, I mean, while we are lacking in terms of our implementation and in terms of far, or the way we've handled the pandemic, we've handled the health infrastructure, the amount of investment we've done in our health infrastructure for all these years. But something like the pandemic will need to have people's cooperation. And I mean, I'll give it to the government that there has been tremendous amount of information going out: wear your mask, wash your hands, don't crowd. I mean, this information has gone out so much that people, that it's like, I mean, jise kehte hain, bacha is doing that now. It's across, it's in many languages, so it's going to villages, it's going to rural areas. So it's not just limited to the internet connected people, but across platforms, across, I mean, it's on all India radio, so the people in rural areas know it. It's panchayat level, people are talking about it. So I mean, basically awareness has been spread enough. Now what is important for us to understand is that, I mean, a pandemic or something as serious as a corona needs to have the cooperation of the people and the government. The implementation has to be good. I mean, the implementation has to be as close as fair. But I mean, I don't think it's physically possible for a country like India with the population that we have to get anything implemented in any particular agency. So it has to have these people also taking responsibility and doing things. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is also because, I mean, this is something that has never happened before. This is something that has, I mean, amount of the length of this pandemic has been like for the last, I mean, for instance, in China, it started in whatever November, I feel, or December, and officially came out in January. That's when they confirmed. But I mean, here, if we say, even if like March, that's when its actual uh, when it started expressing itself in India. From March to now, the year is about to be over in the next 3 months, and we're still in the pandemic. So there is an amount of exhaustion also in people, not just in, I mean, the whole setup, the government, the health infrastructure, people in the markets. You have to open the economy because you have to have income generation. I mean, and so there are these aspects as well. So this is something, I mean, this is something that can only be done while the implementation has to be, I mean, because it's a critical issue, the implementation is critical, but it can only happen with cooperation amongst various agencies, which includes people. So you need to be, I mean, something as simple as wearing a mask. Uh, in these humid, hot conditions, wearing a mask is absolutely difficult, and
Yeah.
especially when you're going out and you're walking outside. I'm sitting in an air conditioned room. I probably don't need it. I have no issues wearing a mask. But if you're going out, you're traveling by public transport, or if you're a labor, you're working in construction, you just can't wear a mask. So I mean, all these aspects need to be accounted for. That if you're going to the market, please wear a mask. You need to be. So there is this amount of exhaustion that has set in. So oh, okay, ठीक है, हो जाएगा. अरे नहीं होगा, मुझे कुछ नहीं होगा. अरे बहुत can't wear a mask. वो it's so hot, I can't wear a mask. So all that is also there. That is where people's responsibility is most important. That if it's my responsibility. If I'm going to the market, I wear a mask. I don't touch my face. I don't touch my eyes. If once I come back, I wash my hand. I don't need to be paranoid about it. मैं तो घर से निकलूंगी नहीं. But I also need to take care of these precautions, because ultimately no implementation agency can come to your house and make sure that you're wearing a mask or you're washing your hands. This is something that you have to do. That you have to. Agencies can spread the information, give you access to it, give you the correct information at the right time. But doing it is responsibility. Then also this aspect of it, a lot of, and that is where the implementation aspect, all these years of providing healthcare, water, sanitation facilities. I mean, all this also comes in. People, for instance, people who have, like for instance, I mean, like Dharavi for that matter, there are common public toilets. How do you ensure sanitation? How do you ensure people don't catch the virus? Because I mean, and Dharavi has become a case study of how people actually live while they are, while they are like 10 people living in one room. So, I mean, so this is where your responsibility, washing your hands, ensuring sanitation, cleanliness, all this comes in. So, I mean, it needs to be a balance between all these.
Ma'am, I'd like to just ask a follow-up question.
Yep.
So, when you stated about the awareness thing, so recently I was a part of an organization. So we just had a survey and we just went to a nearby village. All right. So there was a quadrangle sort of an area, and people were just sitting in groups of like 15 and 20. And when we asked, with our fullest humble nature to them, that so why aren't you wearing a mask, or like why aren't you following the rules stated by the government? So the first thing that they stated was like the COVID, the coronavirus doesn't affect the people who are from rural side of the area because they've got strong immunity. So does that mean that every individual can have a different opinion about if they're having a strong immunity, they aren't supposed to follow the rules? And if they aren't following, then what should be the prevalent steps of the government to get this thing implemented?
So see, of course, people will have their own views. They read different, they get their information from different sources. I get my information, let's say, from UN sources or from WH sources. There are people who rely on WhatsApp forwards. There are people who rely on people who feel that well, the youth will stay for just नहीं होना. There are people. I'm not saying कि वो गलत है मत लो पियो. I mean, it's good for your immunity. It's good for your body. That doesn't ensure that you will not get the virus. Um, People who feel that I mean, there have been prescriptions floating around on WhatsApp saying if you take um, paracetamol, what's the medicine, Dola, and you take this, that, and you keep having it for 5 days, you will not get the virus. That's not true. Those medicines, Dola is is there fever. If you don't feel, I mean, so it's basically each and every individual. How do they, where do they get the information from, and how do they treat that information? Now that is also something. Again, I will give it to agencies and to governments. I will appreciate that they have done a big campaign on fact check, on tackling misinformation. I mean, misinformation was is. I mean, imagine. I mean, if you compare, imagine imagine Donald Trump saying drink up whatever disinfectants and you will be cured. I mean, you will not get the virus. And there were actually calls. There were actually people who drank disinfectants. There were actually thousand lakhs of calls to a company that produces a disinfectant, asking how much do we drink, whether it's safe and all that. And they were like, we're going crazy. What is this happening? Because your president came on national television and said, drink up the disinfectant, right? But there were people who knew कि ये गलत बोल रहा है, right? So you need to, I mean, it's all, I mean, I जो जैसे अच्छा वो गांव से पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है, they this they
Excuse me, ma'am.
Ma'am, your voice is not audible, I guess. Hello,
Uh, so right,
Sexen, are you there? Yeah, she's not
yeah,
audible, I
I
guess.
guess, yeah, I guess ma'am has again disconnect, like rejoined.
Yeah, no problem.
Meanwhile, just to inform you, we'll be taking just one more question, right? So the one who wants to ask the question, please keep yourself ready, considering that it's already 11. Okay, UNW, DPRP, you will go the next, okay? After the question of Sarthik sir is answered. The breakout rooms will be opened at 11. Like as soon as this session gets over, I'll open the breakout rooms. You all have been assigned, but when I open them, you all will receive a message. So let ma'am join you, and then we'll do the breakout room.
को ये बात स्ट्रेट कर दे तो मेरा दोस्त है या नहीं
Sorry, it's a bit of an issue right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just quickly, like I was saying, it's an individual. I mean, it's an opinion. It's a what the governments can do is constantly. Uh, I mean, what governments, institutions, organizations like the UN, WHO, what we can do is constantly push out the correct information, constantly push out tackle misinformation and tell people this is incorrect, this is correct, do this thing. The only so if you see WHO, UN handles across social media and across various platforms, all are everything that we're saying, not just in India, across the world, is the only thing that can prevent coronavirus from reaching you is wash your hand, wearing a face mask, and don't go to crowded places. So this is all that we're saying. We're not saying that we're going to get you a vaccine. We're not saying we're going to get you a medicine. We're not saying you can take this, you can take that. All that is fine. Build your immunity, absolutely fine. That's most important for it, not just this disease, other diseases also. Generally good for your body. But this is not going to cure the disease, or this is not going to help you. Other than that, even if you have high immunity, that doesn't mean that you will not get the virus. There are people asymptomatic going, I mean, I don't know, I might be having the coronavirus right now. I don't have any symptoms, I don't have anything, but I'm probably down with the virus, and I'm also spreading it maybe. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Shachi ma'am will be taking the last question now from UNW DPRP.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
uh,
Ma'am, actually, I have a question. Ma'am, in India, we have very brilliant minds with a lot of knowledge and lot of invention ideas. But the poor children who are amongst the brilliant mind don't have much money to make their inventions or inventions prototype. And somehow, if they are able to make it, they don't have about 40,000 to about 40,000 for patenting their idea. And our government also don't have any scheme for these kind of children. So what are what are your views on this topic?
so UN does actually recognize that India has what we call the demographic dividend, which is the largest population of young in the world. We do recognize that the young need to be, in fact, our survey also has, like I was saying earlier, has recognized that the young need to be provided with opportunities, so that they can bring a better life for themselves and improve their futures, and hence have a impact, I mean a positive impact on their surroundings and the world eventually. But unfortunately, see a lot of these. So as per the SDG 4, which is on education, what we do say is we have, so that's what we that's what the SDGs are meant to be. That we put out targets. Of course, these are voluntary targets. These aren't legally binding targets, but that do. I mean, we said education for all, opportunities for all, is what is one of the goals, because that is what is going to uplift not just the person who's benefiting from it, but his surroundings, his family, locality, community, country, and hence globally. So we have put an emphasis on it. uh, we do say that young need to get access to opportunities and education, and that too not just like any education, but relevant and education that can make them future ready. uh, so all these things need to happen. And that, I mean, that is why we say the SDGs are like, you can't have one SDG, and you can't like succeed in one and not succeed in the other. I mean, it's like a package. It comes as a package. I can't. In fact, at a recent webinar, the UN India resident coordinator was asked the same thing. What are the four key SDGs that you feel we should focus on? And she said, well, unfortunately, the SDGs come, not unfortunately, but fortunately, the SDGs come as a package. They come as a full package. They are interconnected. So if your poverty levels go down, if the more people we pull out of poverty, we give them more access to education, we give them better sanitation, that in better water, cleaner water, healthier food, is when all of this package combines to provide better opportunities for these poor kids, combines to provide them the resources so that they can use their intelligence, use their innovations, use their abilities to create uh, things that are better, things that are innovative. And while yes, I do absolutely agree, there are the poorer, the underprivileged sections of our society do not get that access, and hence, I mean, the they're like, but and don't get the resources to come out of that, those levels of poverty. But there are many, I do agree there is lacking on that aspect, but there are schemes, there are institutions. The civil society comes in as a major partner there. They do give, there are many scholarships, there are many, the UN has many schemes, many projects wherein they encourage young students from underprivileged backgrounds to bring in their innovations. And not just the UN, there are government schemes at district levels, at village, unfortunately not at village levels, but at the district level, at the state level, at national level. For instance, the NSIC, I believe, yeah, the NSI, that's the national, I'm forgetting its the acronym, I believe, is NSIDC or something, which is basically the organization for small industries development. So what they do is they provide training and resources to young people without limitation on like an education level. So without saying that you can only be a 12th or a graduate to access those resources, but they do provide training and loans and facilities and access to markets for younger people, for people from underprivileged background, to set up their own industries, to set up their own business. So this is one of such organizations. There are many other organizations that are doing this kind of work. But yes, eventually you will need much more investment and much more kind of investment, not just in terms of money, but in terms of people, in terms of resources, to provide more opportunities to the underprivileged. And like I said, implementation of the SDGs at a larger scale as a package is what is going to improve the situation further. So because if let's say, even if we are able to pull out people from poverty, if there aren't enough education resources, education is impacted. If there is no sanitation, I mean, you must have probably read about it. A lot of girls don't go to school, or drop out of school because there is no separate washroom for girls, and hence the families don't allow, because they don't want the girls to go to a school, or because of course you can't not go to the washroom throughout the day, especially when girls start menstruating. They drop out of school because there are no separate washrooms. I mean, a lot of rural areas, there are no separate washrooms for students. So I mean, smaller issues like these is what going to help. Yeah.
Uh, Lakshya sir, you and WDPRP, do you have any follow-up, or shall we end the session now? So you're not audible. Okay, Lakshya sir. Uh, okay, so if anyone has any questions, I'll just drop the survey form. You can uh, get it there. Thank you so much, Shachi ma'am, for being there for an hour with us. It was really fruitful, and the delegates really liked it. Some of them have even messaged me that it was a very good idea. They really appreciate the efforts of the United Nations. Thank you so much, ma'am. If you'd like to say anything, you can.
No, just I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to interact. Um, uh, and I feel there should be more such interactions. It's good to hear from you people and hear from people from out. I mean, I get to hear a lot of what my colleagues at the UN and people at the UN say. We don't hear as much from people outside the UN. So it's good to know your thoughts, your opinions. It's good to meet you guys. And yes, good luck for your event.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, Thank you so much, ma'am. Hope to see you again at Manhattan 3.0.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.